The brand new 2023 new tool 1:35 scale Ferret Scout car from Airfix. Let's first impression it. Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and welcome to today's first impressions video, which is focusing on this. This is hitting the shops pretty much as I record this, which is the 7th of September 2023. This has landed with me this morning, so it'll be arriving in the shops, and anyone who's pre-ordered it will be starting to take delivery of it now. It's a brand new tool from Airfix, so we're going to have a good look at this. I don't know whether Academy's involved or not, so I'm sure we'll get an idea as we go through it. So looking at the box, it's got some lovely Cold War artwork on here of the Ferret in Berlin, just outside the Brandenburg Gate, and as usual, this is going to be your paint scheme A. So yeah, really nice setting for this post-war vehicle. And if we look at the side of the box, the important thing here is it tells us, there we go, model design and tooling 2023, decal scheme 2023, all rights reserved, made in India. Okay, it's an age 8+, then we've got the usual warning information. It also confirms that we've got cartograph decals. Side of the boxes pretty much tell you the same information as the top, and right here in tiny writing in the corner we've got our kit number, which is A1379. So as this is a new release, you can't get this with your flying hours. Then we've got a little bit of history on this side, our three paint schemes, our listed paints. So I always think that's really handy, because if you're in a shop buying this, you can see what paints you need and go and get them at the same time if you need to. It's a skill level 2, and that gives us 2 flying hours. And our 3 paint schemes that are listed are West Germany, August 1961, this one. We've got British Army Training Unit, Canadian Forces based in Alberta, 1980s. Now, that has got the nice reds and stuff on it, but it doesn't have the main gun. It has a blanking plate instead. And then here, this one is 5th Parachute Brigade, British Army Overseas, Cyprus, 1974, and that's white. It's sort of like UN markings, but you've got a green underside, green wheels, so yeah, quite nice. That will be a nice one for doing weathering and bits and pieces. So I need to decide quickly which one I prefer. So as we do the first impressions, we will I'll make that decision, because I'm going to start building this one straight away, and we'll do a very little build diary. It shouldn't take long, and should be cool. Right, comes taped down, so I just need to undo the tape. Okay. And we take our box lid off, and we're greeted by a lot of green. Okay, single bag. And at the bottom we've got our instructions and our decals, which I think were face down in the box, which is unusual. Let's have a quick look at the instructions. So our instructions, the usual Airfix format. We've got an A4 colour matte stapled build manual, has a little bit of history on the front in multiple languages, tells us to wash our parts, and then when we turn over we have our assembly icon instructions, all very familiar, and then we have we go straight into our build. Build part 1, we are building up the interior. That's nice. Have we got a full interior? I don't know. I pre-ordered this back in January when they announced their new catalogue. I thought, right, I need to get it. So I don't really know what I've got, to be honest. So we're building up. There's some detail on the floor pan. We've got bulkheads going in. Then some racks for equipment, radio equipment, I think, by the looks of it. We've already got decisions being made on whether you're doing B or A or C. So yeah, B being the training one, I think is going to be fairly different. So my gut feel is I'm going for A, but I'm not 100% on that. Right, then we've got what to me looks like the seats going in. Yeah. Then we're building up the 2 side walls. That looks like another seat being... Oh no, it's not a seat. Right, it's hatches with interior detail and hinges. That's nice. So you can have the hatches open or closed. Lovely. Then we're building up the outer casing. Looks like there's no engine. There's no engine in there at all. So we've got cabin detail but not engine detail. Okay, more vision port hinges being made up and installing those. Looks like we've got a number of individual slabs to build up for the top of the body there. It looks like every single hatch can be open or closed, so that's nice. No clear parts in them though for the vision blocks. Then we've got steering wheel going in, front plates going in, engine covers going on. That'll be the mount for the spare wheel. Then we're starting to build up suspension parts. Be interesting to see how nice those springs are. As always, we've got paint instructions being given out. 75, is that gloss black from memory, or semi-gloss black? Yeah, be interested to see how those springs look. They can be tricky springs, but some people do a really good job of them. So more external detail around the suspension, which looks quite detailed actually. So we can see that going in. It's showing you close up where that goes. Then we've got the mud guards going on, front and rear on one side and front and rear on the other, with storage boxes and things built in. So slightly different arrangement on each side because of the spare wheel. Then we've got little C-hooks going in. That's a nice little detail. If they're nice and fine, that'll be good. 2-part wheels with separate hubcaps. And again, depending on which one you're doing, there's a huge blanking plate for the training version. So putting the wheels on, spare wheel. Then we've got tools, fire extinguisher, lamps, smoke dischargers. Included as an option in the kit. Well, you know, if we've got them as an option, let's use them. Then we've got forward lamps going on. Looks like what they've done with the clear part is put a mesh pattern on the front. So I'll have to have a look at that. I don't know whether that's supposed to be like a painted mesh or not. So we need to take a bit of an understanding of that. Then we've got some more C-clips going on. Fuel cans, so we've got some nice details there. Fuel cans being made up of separate parts like Tamiya would do. And then a little armoured plate there going on the rear of the vehicle. Then we're building up the exhaust, which looks like there is options of what type of exhaust cap, sort of a fishtail one or a double exhaust. And that'll be the Boy Racer one, I guess. Then we've got, looks like a little box with a flip top lid. We've got the aerial mounts. Looks like we've got, again, different options depending on which paint scheme you've got. Now, two options, not A, but B and C, come with these, what are they called? I forget that. I can't bring them to go. It's no fun getting old, is it? But you put them under the wheels to get out of being stuck in the mud or the sand. Yeah. It'll come back to me after I finish filming. We've got some lamps going on forward and back. There's lots of little details going on here, isn't there? We can see. Then we're putting in the top part ready for the turret, building up the turret base. Again, some interior details going in there. Detail painting of the pads. Machine gun being made up. That'll be all plastic. There won't be any photo etch in this. Again, more details going in as we build up the turret. That looks pretty detailed as well. Then we finish building up the turret. Again, we've got various options. Looks like it can be open or closed. And then they use that system that a lot of manufacturers use, where you drop it in the hole and twist it to lock it in place. Which suggests that it's not locked in place when it's in the facing backwards position. So you put it in and it'll be locked in all other positions. I often just cut that little tab off and plop the whole thing in, because I'm either going to glue it in place or I want to leave it loose. So, but we'll see when we build it. This page shows the option of how all the hatches can be assembled in their open position. Right, okay. So that's all hatches open. And you get a good view inside, so you'd have to spend some time painting up the inside if you're going to do that. Right, then we've got our colours. So this is the West Germany August 61. We've got a very small number of decals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decals going on there. Simple colour scheme all over matte bronze green. And we've got dark earth being used. That's on the spade handle. Silver for the lamp lenses. Matte black for the tyres, because obviously Humbrol don't do a tyre black, which they really need to address. And then gunmetal. So fairly straightforward. So the British Army testing one, that's a little bit more exciting with the red on it. And of course you get the, and I still can't, still can't bring it to mind what they're called. But you get those on the front. And yeah, so you've got just one additional colour in there. But a couple more decals that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so one more, because you're losing a couple as well. And then finally, we've got this one, overseas operations in Cyprus, 1974, which is a combination of the bronze green and matte white. And that's going to look really nice under weathering. And I think that's the one I'm gonna do it as a look at it. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of weathering options and bits and pieces we can do with that. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. That's decision made, isn't it? Well, one thing I am noticing is they're saying this fuel can here should be painted black, but when you look at it on the side, it's white. So should it be black? I'd imagine it was black all over. I think that's a little mishap on the instructions there. Okay, instructions are fine. Let's have a look. I mean, clear, as in Airfix instructions are amongst the best. Then we've got our decals. We know the cartograph. It's a nice, simple decal sheet. Now, I'd looked at pictures of this before and thought, online, they've shown several pictures. You're going to have to be careful with the placement of the number plate with the little Union flag there on paint scheme A to make sure you've got the spacings right. But actually, that's one decal. So they've done that for you. I can see a little bit of decal film between the flag and the number plate. So, I mean, there's no excessive decal film on here. The only place where you're going to have to be careful is on the 25, where you've got some between the 2 and the 5. So that's where you've got your most danger of silvering, but otherwise all looks okay. So I'm going to tuck those into the instructions. Let's have a look at some plastic. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coloured sprues and 1 small one with our clear parts and lenses on and what have you. So let's start with what turns out to be sprue D. Now, I really like this. I've seen this more and more on the Airfix sprues. It actually tells you there it's frame D, but they put a big D on there, so you don't have to label your sprue. Nice and easy to identify. So I like that. Just having a look. There is nothing on here about recycling. Now, question I'm trying to answer in my head is this Airfix or is this Academy? I think this is Airfix, so I'm a little surprised that we've not got the... Oh yes, we have. I found it, sorry. There you go. Got our recycling information there. So this is definitely Airfix and not Academy. And it feels like the new specification plastic, the hard plastic. So even though the colour's different to what we've seen before with the dark greys that we've been getting in recent kits, I don't think we need to be alarmed. Right, let's have a good look at this. So we've got all sorts of little parts here, C-hooks and bits and pieces, and they don't look bad actually. There's a little bit of seam on some of them. I've got to be careful cleaning them up, but they don't look too bad. These ones have got bolts on, which look quite nice. In fact, let me get my magnifier. I just want to have a look and make sure that there is actually a decent bolt head on there. Yeah, it looks like there's bolt head on there. Not the easiest thing to see. We've got lovely detail on the fuel cans. That one says water across it, so that might be the one that you paint black. All the strapping is moulded onto it, so when the aftermarket boys get to grips with this, as they're bound to, that'll be something that they address, taking them off and replacing with etch. But it doesn't really need it. It's really nicely done. So detail paint, bit of a wash to highlight it, should be fine. Smoke discharges aren't empty, but they also don't feel like they've got the caps on. You know, the little black sort of rubber cap that goes on the end. These ones do. Those ones are right. They've given you two options. So there's caps on, caps off, in which case you're going to have to drill out the holes. Yeah, or get some brass tube or something. Then we've got the wing mirrors. They look nice. You're going to have to paint those, but paint them in chrome and give them a good gloss coat, or 2 or 3 gloss coats. They should look fine. Shovel looks a little bit basic, that. I guess the shape's right and stuff. Probably look all right when it's on. Then we've got a pickaxe head. That's our fintail exhaust pipe, which again you would have to, that'd be difficult, but lots of drilling in, and then going in with a little bit of a knife and carve it out. It's possible, or you could just paint the end. Got separate fire extinguisher and rear lamps and stuff like that. So paint them silver, then paint them in a clear red. They'll look nice. What I'm not seeing is any sink in any of this. We've got some really nice detail, hinge detail on here. Hand grabs and bits and pieces. They all look really quite nice. No flash or anything. And no sink marks in anything that is a visible surface. Everything seems to be either inside a part. You can see they've got lots of them actually on the sprues. So they're using the ejector pins on the sprues, which is lovely. They've got lots of them, and they've added 1 or 2 parts have got an ejector pin coming out of the part. But yeah, that all looks quite good, that. Okay, that is sprue D. Sprue C, and we've got wheels and suspension all on here, so that's nice to see things have been grouped around. Everything we were looking at on sprue D was all the sort of the external parts, so as we're working backwards through these sprues, I'm guessing that they're grouped in sequence to how you're going to build it, which is a nice touch. Means you only need 1 sprue out at a time. So we've got the 2-part wheels, and you know, they look okay. The pattern on the tyre looks great, and the detail on the hubs with all the bolt heads looks lovely. There is no sidewall writing of any description though, which is a little bit disappointing. It would be nice to have that on. So inevitably there's going to be some resin replacements for this. Then we've got all the suspension bits. We do have a seam through the spring, so a little bit of careful clean up with that, but it's not overtly heavy, so it should just scrape out. The spring looks okay. I know it says in the instructions to paint them gloss black, but I think I'd be tempted to do them in a very dark grey, so you can go in with a black panel liner and just highlight them a little bit. I think that would work. And then we've got all of these, which are really nice and crisp. That's our hubs, nice detail on there. Those are those little suspension arms we saw going in. And then we've got, I mean, these look really nice as well. Lovely detail. Yeah, very nice. I'll take some photographs at the back end of the video. You can see them all in close up. Sprue C, and we've got wheels and suspension all on here. So that's nice to see things have been grouped around. Everything we were looking at on Sprue D was all the sort of the external parts. So as we're working backwards through these sprues, I'm guessing that they're grouped in sequence to how you're going to build it, which is a nice touch. It means you only need one sprue out at a time. So we've got the two-part wheels, and you know, they look okay. The pattern on the tyre looks great, and the detail on the hubs with all the bolt heads looks lovely. There is no sidewall writing of any description though, which is a little bit disappointing. It would be nice to have that on. So inevitably there's going to be some resin replacements for this. Then we've got all the suspension bits. We do have a seam through the spring, so a little bit of careful clean up with that, but it's not overtly heavy, so it should just scrape out. The spring looks okay. I know it says in the instructions to paint them gloss black, but I think I'd be tempted to do them in a very dark grey, so you can go in with a black panel liner and just highlight them a little bit. I think that would work. And then we've got all of these, which are really nice and crisp. That's our hubs, nice detail on there. Those are those little suspension arms we saw going in. And then we've got, I mean, these look really nice as well. Lovely detail. Yeah, very nice. I'll take some photographs at the back end of the video. You can see them all in close up. So this is Sprue E, and again it's continuing with the groupings of the parts as you need them. So this is all turret, and this is the stuff that comes right at the back end of the build. So you build the turret last. So what have we got? Well, we've got a completely flat, featureless turret. Oh no, that's not the turret base. That's what am I saying? That is the spare wheel blanking plate for option B. There's our turret base, which I suspect that's the bit we don't see because it's got the ejector pin marks. And then that's our top, which has got some nice raised fastener detail. That's the bit that we probably, I can't remember on the instructions how it worked, but that's the bit that sits into the body and turns. We've got all these little tie down points on the side there, which they've depicted, but you may want to just chisel them off and put some fine wire in if you're building this before the aftermarket comes out, which I'm going to be. So we might look at that come the time. I might just leave it. I might just build it as a straight box build. Then we've got, that's actually the armour plate for the back end, which is one of the last things that goes on before the turret. The machine gun looks nicely detailed actually. Obviously there's no ammunition belt for it, or I guess there's some form of bag for the spent ammunition or something like that. There's none of that there. But paint that up, give it a wash, it should look fairly decent. Obviously you've got to drill it out again, no slide moulding. Yeah, all looks good, nice and crisp, lots of detail where they've put it in. Yeah, nice. Sprue B, and actually this is a lot of the stuff that we start the build with. So that goes in the floor pan in step 1, for example. We've got all sorts of padding for the seats, the radio set. So there was no decals for any of this, so it's just paint them up. So a little bit of research might be needed. Steering wheel, fairly basic, but I guess it was. And that's your different radio sets for option B. Then we've got our vision hatches, and this is the bulkhead that goes in between the engine and the internal cabin. Obviously no engine, so I'm guessing there will be someone doing a resin engine very soon. I think there is a bit of sink in that part, or it's supposed to be a sink in the material. Hard to know, but it is a big, thick, chunky bit of plastic. So wouldn't surprise me if that was a bit of sink. Everything's nice and crisp. It's got quite a chunky feel to it somehow. Not quite sure. It's, yeah. But, you know, when you look at the internal detail of the hatch, you've got the vision block, you've got all the various hinges and the nuts and the bolts. There's lots of detail in there. And it's not softly moulded. It's nice and sharp. Yeah, it all looks good. Final green sprue is A, and we've got all the big, large main parts on here. So floor pan, our two side panels. Floor pan's got detail on the underside there that doesn't follow through onto the inside, and there is a ejector pin mark in there which is on the inside of the cabin that you will be visible, so you will have to deal with that. Then we've got the two side pieces, and you know, you've got cables and stuff all moulded in, which looks really nice, will look great under a wash. Then we've got our mud guard, and they've captured that ribbed metal look really nicely. It's lovely and smooth, nice and crisp, little subtle dip. Once you get a wash on this, I think there'll be detail popping out to you that you can't quite see in amongst all the green, if that makes sense. Because you know, there's stuff here that's so subtle, you'd miss it if you're not careful. There's some hinges and things that they're really, really subtly done. Very, very nice. This is our engine cover with the separate hatches. So if someone does a resin engine, you're going to be able to have that open and see inside. But at this stage, not something you're going to do. Yeah, all looks fab. Shall we have a look at the clear parts? So sprue G is our clear parts. It's lamps and lenses, and basically these are all the same part. So most of the lamps on there you need to paint, but these are all part one, and that's the back of the lamps there, and then you turn it around and there you go. And it's got it's the 60s style thick glass headlamps, and many of you will remember them, certainly I do as a kid, that had that sort of textured feel to them. So they've captured it really quite well, actually. That brings back some memories. You forget with all the plastic lenses that we have today, just how the lamps were. So yeah, they've captured that really nicely. Nothing wrong with those. Lovely. So there you have it. Airfix's brand new tool, 1 to 35 scale Ferret Scout Car Mk.2. Hitting the shops right now. What's my first impressions? Don't know. It clearly is shouting out for some aftermarket. When you look at the picture on the box, and you can see this little bit of chain and the detail on the tyres and all of that sort of stuff, you think, yeah, okay, it needs some resin wheels. Well, it doesn't need them, but resin wheels, they're going to have the sidewall writing on, so that will enhance it. A little bit of photo etch here and there, so that you've got open hooks. It's a personal thing. And then obviously the aerials, you need to make those a bit of stretch sprue or a bit of wire. What I'd say is everything seems to be there to make a Ferret Scout car. It all looks really nicely moulded. I got a feeling it was a bit chunky in a way, but I think that's the vehicle, and I think it's also the green plastic somehow makes it look chunky. And I think once you get some primer on it, the detail will pop out a little bit, and once you get some colours on it. So yeah, I've been really excited for this because it is something quite different, and it reminds me a little bit like the SDKFZ 222. It's almost the British version of that, isn't it? With all the angles, and it's a similar sort of vehicle for a similar sort of purpose. So with that all said, I think it's a vehicle that I remember as a kid, and I think it's an iconic vehicle, and I'm so glad that Airfix have brought this out. They appear to have done a good job on it, but I know that people will want to add little bits, and aftermarket will put an engine in and stuff like that. From a point of view of what I think of the kit, I think it looks lovely as far as it's gone. Personally, I would have liked them to have put an engine in. I think not putting an engine in, I know it's kept the price down and everything, but at the end of the day, an engine in there would have just finished it off. You'd have been able to do the whole thing with all the hatches and the engine covers open, and it gives you so much more scope. So I think that's a bit of an omission, leaving the engine off. So that marks it down in my head a little bit. I think what they have put in, though, they've done a really good job of. They've given you options. I like the fact that all the hatches you can pose open. That's really, really good. I'm sure there should be more detail on the inside than there actually is. There'd be all sorts of clips for holding weapons and bits and pieces like that. So I think it's probably a little bit light on detail on the inside as well. But if you have it all with the hatches closed and stuff, I think it'll look good. So I'm going to build this now and prove to myself and to you lot how good this will look straight out of the box. And I think I've decided on the white one in the end, which is interesting because that's not what I thought when I was purchasing it. I was going for this.